Why are so many people actually becoming religious? Especially, I'd say, like the youth, like Gen Z, like my generation. Obviously, as time has gone by, a lot of people are becoming a lot more atheist. I used to be an atheist as well, and I grew up basically like secular, like I didn't care. Honestly, now if obviously not everywhere, but if you attend more like traditional, like conservative, like areas of the internet, you're gonna see a lot of these like young people that have like this religious like ideology like surrounded by them. Like they'll have like some like name like Deus Vult, some like Latin like phrases and like trad Catholic and just like posting a whole bunch of like I don't know like movie clips from like movies where like movies about Catholicism or like Orthodoxy or whatever. It's actually very interesting in my opinion. I think one of the first things I think one of the major things that has caused a whole bunch of young people to be just like obsessed with like religion or some spirituality or really anything. It's honestly just it's pretty cookie cutter. Is that for young people, like people in my generation, probably your generation as well, is that we're very obsessed with ideologies. We're very obsessed with like belonging to some tribe. Whereas I notice that it's not that it doesn't occur in generations of older people, but it's just like it's less important. If you ask a lot of older people that are Christian or just belong to some ideology group, they'll say, yeah, I'm Christian, or yeah, I'm conservative or socialist or whatever. But usually it doesn't tend to be their entire life. It usually tends to be a belief that they believe in. And it's not to say that they believe in it less than the other people. It's just like it's whatever. Like, yeah, I'm Christian, I pray, I do all that, I go to church. They have a life outside of it, if that makes sense. And I have to say, like, I'm not saying I'm an expert and I know everything. I didn't do any research for this video. I'm kind of just saying like what I think. So this is just my opinion. But I probably said that with the advent of social media, it's very likely that that caused the major push for like everyone belongs to some kind of group or some ideology or yada yada. For example, like you have your Facebook profile, like back in the day, like Facebook profile, like MySpace or whatever, and now it's like Instagram and Discord, and you can put bios and like you can put bios and tell people about yourself and profile pictures and stuff. And again, like still a lot of people just use it in a very like normal way, like my name is John Smith, and they have a picture of themselves smiling, and maybe they'll have a post of themselves going camping or something like that. But then because there's still this like public display, and also the fact that there's this like public display of oneself, it kind of leads to the possibility of someone just rapping like, well, you know what, I'm Christian, I'm gonna have a Christian, I'm gonna have like a monk as my profile picture, or like some saint, or Jesus or whatever. And then in my bio I'm gonna have like Orthodox Christian, or I'm gonna have traditional Catholic, and I don't believe in like Pope Francis is a heretic, or like whatever, just like putting all their ideologies in there because they're like, oh well, I'm Christian, why don't I just show it? And then it leads them like, okay, well, if I got a Christian profile on this, then I'm also going to be making Christian posts. And again, and you can swap this out for anything: communist, conservative, whatever. It doesn't matter. I think also alongside that, the overall, and I'm not saying this is the only thing. There's definitely a million different factors that cause Gen Z to be very like ideologically driven. Because I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe back in the day, people didn't really see, and I don't mean like you could take this all the way back, but like really just looking at it back in the past, no one really was like, no one specifically identified as, oh, I'm anarcho-capitalist, or I am a traditional Catholic, or I am conservative, or no one really like identified in those boxes. It was more like, okay, at the very least it'd be like, yeah, I sometimes vote Democrat, but I think this year I'm going to vote Republican because of XYZ. And it was way less tribalist. Again, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how things used to be. So it kind of explains why people are so like that kind of explains why Gen Z is so ideologically driven, but it doesn't explain why Gen Z is becoming a lot more religious than usual. And I'm a part of it. I'm religious. And honestly, I think it's kind of like, and I think kind of religiosity is like the punk era of like today. So back in the day, there was like punk era and like the hippies and all that. There was always some counter culture to the current culture back then. And back then it was more traditional, conservative, you get it. But now it's kind of flipped. It's kind of flipped where this kind of, not like punk culture specifically, but a very liberal culture has become that's the mainstream culture nowadays. So anything that's traditional it seems counterintuitive. So especially like in a society where legally we're very liberal in terms of like legally we're very liberal, we're very progressive, that leads to people that reject this to become like counterculture. And especially like whenever you're counterculture, you tend to be very expressive about it as well. Like just naturally, like you're not just gonna say, yeah, I'm conservative, or like, yeah, I'm a punk. Like you're like, yeah, I'm conservative, and you're just like very like, you want people to know, and you want people to know that you're a punk. Like for example, if that makes sense. Now, I don't want to speak for everyone, so I'll just speak at least on my behalf. But something that has also become very popular is self-improvement. And honestly, self-improvement is what led me to God. So a lot of people, especially men nowadays, feel that they're not living to their true selves. They're not achieving what they truly want to achieve. And they're maybe not as masculine as they want to be. Usually this kind of desire eventually leads to someone discovering self-improvement through whatever, through something. And through there, they realize like, wait, I can actually make my life better. Like that was the revelation. That was the revelation I had. I kind of like, I didn't necessarily think this literally, but I think implicitly, I believe that your life is just how it is and you can't really change it. But obviously it's not true at all. So when I discovered that when I can do things and I can just, if I just practice this, then my life will be better. And that was like mind revelating, like for me. That was like a huge red pill for me. So usually when you're in self-improvement, you start to hold certain values and certain virtues like above others. So for example, you might value stoicism and being unemotional, discipline, like gratitude, these kind of things. And the thing is, most religions essentially teach these things. So I'm just going to speak from a Christian point of view, but although Christianity isn't necessarily stoic and isn't necessarily stoicism, or doesn't really necessarily employ that philosophy, it does have elements of it. For example, something really bad happens to you, a very good practice to have is, well, his will, not mine. It's God's will, not mine. And just kind of like accept whatever happens to you. Very stoic, very just like, that leads to a very unemotional state, like, well, this is the way God planned it to be. It's completely written into the book of Job, where, if you don't know, Job essentially, good life, like he had like farms, he had like all this stuff, and he loses it all. But in the end, he loses it all, and it was actually for nothing. Like it's not like he sinned or did anything like necessarily like 100% bad. He just lost it all, and even though he lost everything, and he had like he had some really bad stuff happen to him, he still remained faithful. Like he didn't lose his faith or hope. Gratitude, likewise, at least in Christianity, it's very important to be grateful, and gratitude actually has been proven to increase your happiness. Like if you're just content with what you have, and even says in the Bible, like, do not covet your neighbor's wife, do not covet your neighbor's goods. Like you shouldn't want to have what other people have. Just be happy with what you have. It's also a very common practice before eating, saying gratitude, like thank you for this meal, and showing appreciation for everything that you have and everything that God has given to you. And again, with discipline, most religions and some forms of Christianity, it's very important, like self-control. Don't masturbate. Make sure you're praying this amount of time. Like in the Bible, it says you should be praying like all the time, unceasingly, all the time. That's the ideal. So you should be very disciplined. So in Christianity, at least, it pushes this notion that you should be disciplined. So I think for a lot of young men who come into self-improvement like me, when they see these exact values that they can objectively, because self-improvement overall is pretty secular. It's very just like, well, do this, and scientifically it shows that this will happen to you and this will improve your life because of it. So like, for example, like, oh, don't ejaculate because when you retain your semen, then you'll get testosterone benefits and stuff like that. That's like the very secular view of it. That's like the very like distilled secular view. But when you see that, wait a second, almost every religion also teaches the same thing, and kind of like says the same thing, and they've been saying this for thousands of years before. It's like, whoa, okay, that's very interesting. And that's what happened to me. And when I saw that everything that there's secular, very like, you do this will happen to you, and there's there's a concrete scientific benefit to doing this, and religion does the exact same thing. That was very mind-blowing. I'm like, that's very interesting. These people have been talking about it for thousands of years before even the Roman Empire. They knew all this stuff that now people are like, well, look at the scientific research. It says like if you show gratitude, you'll actually be happier. It's like, yeah, like we knew this for thousands of years. Like the ancients knew this. The Egyptians knew this. Like, what are you talking about? I think it would be hard to say every possible way that someone might become religious or Christian. This was genuinely just my pathway. Like, it was genuinely through self-improvement. And obviously, there's a whole bunch of stuff after that. Like, why did I specifically become Christian? Maybe I'll make a video about it if you guys are interested in that. Because, like, I did research other religions. I was actually very close to becoming Muslim and saying, like, the Shahada and everything, but didn't happen. I think alongside that, like, I remember I was watching a video. Like, I think some people might come through, like, the morality or being, like, traditionally conservative. But when you have these certain, like, conservative beliefs, like, when you have, like, conservative beliefs, like, okay, people should get married, they should have kids, that only... It's hard to fully justify that when your morality isn't based on anything that's 100% concrete. Like, if you... Like, without God, it's very hard to have a solid morality, like, this is right, this is wrong, because morality is kind of just becomes, like, subjective. There's no, like, scientific method to discover, like, this is right, this is wrong. Or at least it's very hard to. So I think that leads to a lot of, like, secular conservative people to also, like, adopt religion when they realize, wait, there's actually a very good way to justify all my beliefs and all my, like, morality, and it makes sense in this compass of God. Yeah, so that was a bit of a different video. I just kind of want to, I kind of want to keep YouTube fun as well for me, so I just want to make videos that I'm also interested in, but I should be making some Linux videos soon, don't worry, boys. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll see you guys next time. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment, helps me out. See you guys next time. Peace.